This is Two Teachers Chat with your hosts, Brenda McCrate and Peggy Wilbur.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Peggy. We are
Two Teachers Chat. I have a question for you because this has happened to me more than once.
Okay.
And the first time it surprised me, and then the second time I'm like, ooh, I've seen this before. So I'll quickly describe it. I work with a small group in reading, and one of the students disengages. And so the student will sort of push back in their chair, and they're not engaged with what we're doing, usually a solid 2 with them by reading task or something. And my first inclination, based on psychology research that I've read, is to ignore. And then the student begins to escalate and wave their hands and begin to make noises. And so the other students, their attention is drawn, instead of reading, over to this student. And then the student will, while I'm busy ignoring, will then go on their back and flop over their chair and truly disengage. Now, to be fair, both students have ADD that's, not treated. But what happened was then I got mad.
Of course.
And I had, been trying to redirect, and that didn't help. So I was curious as to where that went wrong.
Okay.
And it was new behavior, so it wasn't something I had seen before.
So new behavior from both.
Yeah, each
children
separately, yeah. So
in a different
one
group?
was in one grade level and one's in another. They're
Okay.
fairly young. One was a first grader and one was a second grader. Very
May
different
I
kids.
ask you, had the passage gotten harder? Had the reading task gotten harder?
Yes, both of them disliked, although I always scaffold what we're reading.
Right.
But yes, they both perceived that it was tricky. However, it was practice, was what it was.
Okay. So it sounds to me like they disengaged because they were afraid they were going to fail at it.
Okay.
It sounds like a fixed mindset where if something gets too hard, I flop around, I misbehave, I get bad attention.
That got me to where I didn't have to do
Right,
that activity.
exactly, because the teacher's going to say, go sit over there, or go to a timeout, or even as much as send you to the principal. Well, hardly worth that if they're flopping in the chair. But so I think, and I don't know, because nothing fixes everybody.
Right. Okay.
But first of all, if you can find any way to give them some positive attention. So if they had finished reading, say, a sentence or two and done okay with it, and then done the floppy behavior, you could say, Jackson. And I know it's not Jackson. I'm just making up names. I make up names at random. But Jackson, you did so well in this last sentence. I bet if you tried that hard, we could get this sentence. We, not you, but we. Let's work together on it. And you might have to ignore the other three and say, okay, you guys keep reading, and you know what? Joe, move over next to Sue, so the three of you are together, and Sue, you're in the middle, so you're my lead reader. You're going to read at her pace while I work with Jackson over here, because we all know he can get it, don't we, guys? Oh, yeah, and usually kids can be pretty supportive that way. Yes. And then I'd say, okay, let's work on it. Oh, look at how, and even if it's just a little more fluent, a little better, even if they struggled with every word but two, you're going to say, oh, look at these 2 words. You got them. And so let's do this. And then you bring them back into the group and say, okay, have you guys practiced? Oh, good. Jackson and I have practiced too. So let's put it all together and do it together now. It's because we want them to learn so much. And yet, when they disengage from us, it isn't because they're ornery I mean, once in a while, you know, they all have bad days and some of them have worse days. But something is going on, and a lot of the times it's because it just got too hard for them to deal with by themselves. But that's why we're there, to help them deal with it, you know. And then in the large class setting, it can be a whole lot more difficult because you've got 22 or 25 or 30. And or more sometimes, and that one kid is disengaged and pulling other kids into that
and
disengagement
escalating.
and
That's
escalating.
Right.
And sometimes, honestly, you have to think of the 26 others and say, I need you to go to the back of the room and do, you know, write out why you're doing this and what you need. And then we'll talk. But sometimes it can be just as easy as standing next to them and just saying, you know, I know you can do this. I just know you can. You know, I'll come back and help you in a minute, you know, and you keep everybody going. There's no silver bullet. We're people, and sometimes they've just had a rotten day, and that's who they are, you know, that day, because they're just having a rotten day. And other times, especially when they come to you separately, it could be something that happened in the classroom. You know, if you see that kind of behavior right when you start your group, it's probably something that happened in the classroom. And maybe you can pull them aside and say, did something bad happen in the classroom? Do you want to talk about it, or can we just take it and let it go? And kids can do that. Adults do that. Compartmentalize, you know. But with your situation, it sounds much more like the task had gotten too hard. And
I think you're right.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Now I'm really ready for coffee.
Yes.
Thank you for watching 2 Teachers Chat. Until next time, and remember, teachers touch lives forever.